Welcome to the 7th video of creating a matrix style animation or widget. So what we're going to be doing first is having a look at what we're going to be building. Okay, so today we're going to be working with JavaScript and we're going to be making this animation, this changing of one phrase to the other. So this is what we're going to be working today. So let's get down to it. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the plan. So we need to make our JavaScript object in the back end for our matrix animation. And then in the front end, what we already have done is we've created a JavaScript array that contains both our phrases. And what we'll need to do is we'll need to loop through those phrases and pass each phrase through to the matrix object. So again, this is going to be like a continuous loop where first we pass one phrase in, that'll do the animation for that phrase, and then a full conversion will happen. And then we pass the next phrase in, and then it will do the same thing again and again and again, creating that animation through those phrases. Now within that JavaScript object, what we need to do first is we need to create some attributes. So we need to make the first attribute is to create the characters that we need to that we will be using for our random characters, and we need to get that DOM area that is passed into the object. So the DOM, if you don't know what that is, I would suggest that you look at the video that I've posted in the description bottom of the description area, and it tells you what the DOM is and how we can use it. And then this is the most important, this is what's going to be called first when we pass through. So if you have not already watched that JavaScript logic video, I would suggest that you do that now, and again I'll put that in the description below. So in that video I say like we need to create all these variables and values to create our animation. So what this method will do in our object is it's going to create that variables, that all the variables that we need, and then create an array for each of those values, for each of the values that we need for each of the characters. And then it will allow us to call the change phrase or the change phase method, and that will do the actual change phase. And then we'll create a method that allows us to select a random character. So this is the big overview picture. If you don't quite understand it yet, don't worry. We're going to go through it step by step to create it. But it could be a good idea that once we built it, come back to this plan and see, we'll see whether you can understand why I've done it this way. Okay, so the 5 tasks that we're going to be doing in this video is we're going to be getting the object from the DOM. We're going to be creating the JavaScript class for our matrix widget. We're going to be making that constructor with our DOM object, and we're going to be creating the character attributes that we talked about before. We're going to be creating that getTextData function that allows us to get the following data from the old phrase and the maximum length of the old phrase or the new phrase. And then we need to create an all-day array. So again, hopefully you can start seeing how these tasks relate to that plan that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so we open up our JavaScript file, and what we need to do is create our class. So again, I'm going to be doing this in OOP. So it's the same as a lot of others. We've just used the class. We use the class keyword and then the name of our class, which we're going to be calling matrix. So we've created our class. That was easy enough. And now we need to create our constructor. Now remember, this is a constructor is the method that will automatically be called once this once we try and initialize this this class. Once we try and make an object from this class, it will be automatically called. And we want to do 2 things. We want one attribute with the DOM object and one attribute with the character attributes. So I'm going to add them in now. So if we see here, simple enough. If we say the word constructor, this is how we can make the constructor. So that this will automatically be called. We're going to put the DOM in here. So what will happen is we take this information, and then when we create our object, we're going to have to pass this value into our object, so that then we can grab that object and we can assign it to our attribute within this matrix. So what I'm now doing now is I'm just saying, like, take this value and put it to this class's attribute. So remember, this is just referring to the class. So we're making an attribute for this class, and we're adding that value. So that means that throughout this class, we can then call this attribute. And then with this one, I'm just creating the random characters that we're going to be using in our animation. So you can change these characters to whatever you want, and whatever you change these characters to, this is what will appear in that animation. So we can tick off the third one. Now what we need to do is we need to create that getTextData function that allows us to get the following data. Okay, so that's the next step. Okay, so what we need to do is within our class, we're going to create a new function or a new method. Now this method is going to be called getTextData, and we are going to have a attribute here that passes in the new phrase. So what will happen is that when we initially call this, when we initially declare this matrix object, what will happen is only this will be done, because we haven't attached anything to call any other methods within that class. So when we declare it, what will happen is we'll just create the HTML object and assign it to our attribute and create our characters. And then when we go through that loop, remember that plan that we talked about? We will loop around each time, and then we're going to call this method each time we loop around, and we're going to pass that phrase into that method. So we'll have that new phrase. But then what we'll need to do is we'll need to get that old phrase as well, and this is where that DOM comes in. So what this does is this grabs that value that we've passed into our attributes when we first initialized the class, and then say we want to grab that inner text. So whatever inner text is in that container at the moment, so whatever's in here at the moment, whatever's being displayed in here at the moment, let's grab that and let's put it into the old phrase value. So then hopefully we should have the new phrase that we want to change it to, and we have the old phrase that is currently being displayed. And then what we want to do is we want to just say, look, let's have a look at both of these phrases. So let's have a look at the length of the old phrase, and let's have a look at the length of the new phrase. And then let's pick the one that's the largest, and we're going to put that into the value length. So that is the fourth task done. Okay, so the last task that we need to complete is we need to create an array which contains all our data. So this is easy enough. All we need to do is create another JavaScript array. So in there, we can just say, look, we want to attach this array to this matrix class. And then what will happen in the future is we'll put all our values for each of the characters into this array, because then we can use this array in our other methods. So these are all the tasks that we have to do today in this video. Hopefully you can start seeing how the plan and the code is matching up. And if you're still confused about what we're going to be doing with this array, watch the next video and we're going to start putting information into that array and you'll start understanding how that works. But those are our 5 tasks. Now we're going to go on to some concept checking questions. Okay, so here are our concept checking questions. Pause the video and see if you can answer them. If you can answer all of them without any problems, then you've got the main concepts that I was trying to teach during the video. So hopefully you've paused it and answered them. Let's have a look at the answers. So how did we create a class that automatically assigns values to its attributes? Well, we created the class by using the class method and the name of the class. Then we used the constructor, and this means that it's automatically called once the class is created, or once the object of the class is created. Then we can assign values to it by, let's say, using this and then dot the name of the attribute that we're going to create for the class, and then assigning it either through passing something into the constructor or by just signing the value straight onto it. How do we use the DOM to get the text information from a HTML container? Well, in this instance, we just use this HTML object dot inner text. But do remember that this HTML object, we have already retrieved that object from the DOM. So you need the first code to actually do the using the DOM methods to retrieve the thing that you want from HTML. And then once you've retrieved that thing and put it into the object, for ours it's the HTML object that we created, then you can use all sorts of methods there to kind of get the information and change things. But for us to get the just the text information, we just use the inner text. What JavaScript method do we use to find out the largest length of our 2 phrases? Well, we use the math. So there's all sorts of math methods that we could use. We use the math max, and this, you can put 2 values in, and then it will output the maximum value, the value that is the largest one. And so for us to find out the 2 lengths, all we need to do is put in the old phrase and then use the length method to try and find the length of that phrase, and same with the new phrase, and it'll output the length of the largest one. And the last one, how did we create a JavaScript array for our class? Well, to do it for our class, we need to put this, and then we just need to put the name of our array, and then we put these square brackets in to designate that it's an array that we created. So if you're finding these videos useful and you want me to continue doing that, it would be great to see whether you are enjoying it. So please subscribe or leave a comment or a like, and it just lets me know that you are finding these videos useful and you would like me to continue. So thank you very much, and see you in the next video. Bye.